Good morning. We're sitting here with Dr. Jeff Allbritten, who is the new president of Macon State College. I'm Sarah Fry Mitchell. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to
Hi,
meet you,
how
Sarah.
are you?
Very well.
We've just got a few questions for you
Sure.
on your new regime for the college. What are your immediate plans for Macon State?
Well, what I'm doing is I'm trying to assess every area of Macon State. I've met with almost every different division within the institution. I've been on the job. I think today's day 26. I think on the job. So I started beginning of July, and I've been meeting to find out where our financial issues are, where student enrollment issues are, and just getting a complete understanding of the entire scenario of Macon State. What I'm happy to report is what I'm finding is mostly very good, as I thought when I accepted the position. It's a very strong, healthy academic institution that's growing. It's evolving, and it's evolving rather rapidly. In terms of what we're looking at for expectations of admission standards for students, we're changing and growing and going to be offering a lot more to the community, a lot more to the students as well. So my initial plans are to let's accentuate what we're doing very well, and let's get that out there and tell our story much better. You all know in your interest in journalism through both the newspaper and the television show, we need to tell our story better. We have many very good things to share with people. We just don't need to keep it a secret any longer. And it's a wonderful institution, beautiful facilities, great academic programs. We're going to grow, and we're going to be serving the needs of this community even greater.
Okay. What made you want to come to Macon State in the
Well,
first
a
place?
part of that is just what I was saying. I saw what I consider to be a real gem. I think it's a real gem in this community, an institution that's really ready to step forward and really sort of achieve its potential. And there's tremendous staff and faculty here. The previous president, Dr. Bell, did a wonderful job really taking this institution from what was 15 years ago a two-year school to a robust and dynamic four-year institution that really is key in the central of the lives of people in Central Georgia. We're going to be focusing on economic development, job creation, working with partner industries to try to find areas we can really be centers of excellence for many different fields. And as we do that, we're going to be looking at expanding more bachelor's opportunities and hopefully even master's degrees as well.
Awesome. What's been your favorite part of the Macon State campus so far?
The people, that's real simple. Yeah, the tremendous welcoming from all areas of the faculty and the staff. Everybody has a real love for this institution. They really want to see it do well. I think everybody's very hopeful and optimistic for the future, and I'm going to try to capitalize on that energy and take it as far as we can take it. I think the state is ready for this institution to sort of rise to its full potential, and there's a tremendous amount of support, I can tell you, in the several county region around here, because I've been on the road quite a bit, and I talked to all of the regents in the area. I've talked to many business leaders, political, civic leaders, and they're all like, we're behind whatever you all want to do 100%. We want to see this institution grow.
Now, do you think there needs to be any immediate changes to Macon State?
I'm still assessing. This is not a broken institution. This is a wonderfully strong institution. I had no interest in leaving where I was to come to take a turnaround. This is not that at all. This institution is healthy. It's strong. I think I want to help it understand and define its role of really what it wants to be in a leadership position over the next decade. And I think I can help in that area and help bring the community closer, because those are strengths that I think I bring to the position. So I'm very happy with what it is. I don't need to make extreme changes. I might realign certain areas that make more sense in terms of what my comfort zone is, but nothing that would be sweeping. It really doesn't need it.
This is a question from one of our staff. He wanted to know, would there be any chance of bringing back the old Mustang mascot?
That really, I don't have any preconceived notion on any of those things. That really has to be driven by the students. I think whatever the students' desire is what we're going to try and do. It doesn't need to be top-down driven, because whatever the mascot is, if this is something the students feel strongly about, something I support.
What programs are you interested in bringing to MSC?
Well, I'm looking at areas where we have automatic strengths in. I think in the area of healthcare, we've been tremendous in areas of nursing, but where I'm meeting with all of the local CEOs of all the hospital and healthcare providers, I just finished that on Friday. And there's a lot of opportunity for growth in in different areas that we hadn't even thought of, providing more clinical experiences, more of the if there are jobs, and there are high skill, high wage jobs, we need to make sure we're providing student opportunities to go into those fields. And so those are things I have an interest in. I have a desire and see us expanding in our business areas and our information technology areas. I think we can really be a leader, especially with the Warner Robins Air Force and Robins Air Force Base in Warner Robins. That is a tremendous growth opportunity for us as an institution. We need to be poised to take advantage of that.
Are you interested at all in revamping the student media program?
If that's something the students wish to do, I'd love to have a vibrant student media program. I think that's excellent. This morning I was meeting with people in the foreign language areas, and I'm a big proponent of international education. We're going to be seeing expansion of exchange opportunities, bringing students from different institutions across Europe and Asia into Macon State, and vice versa, sending Macon State students to have those experiences. I want to broaden those opportunities to students to really kind of see a different side of the world.
On a slightly more personal note, do you have any interesting hobbies outside of academia?
Well, I'm a frustrated old retired musician who hasn't really played in a long time. But my real love is the water and travel, European travel especially. My wife and I spend quite a bit of time in Europe over the last decade, really. Like we spent Christmas in Switzerland this year, and I've spent I think four or five Christmases now in Europe over the last decade. Probably half the Christmases have been there.
Do you speak any other languages?
I speak German,
okay.
Not fluently, but enough to get by when I'm walking around, the halls in Germany. Her favorite country is Switzerland. My favorite country is Germany. So we just sort of kind of hang around the Alps and yodel.
On the website, you talk about strengthening the cultural and the cultural and economic fabric of this region. And I just want to know specifically what kind of things do you want to see Macon State College do in the community?
Well, I think an institution like this is a key linchpin in economic development. Economic development means attracting new companies, growing the companies that you have. And education, higher education especially, is a key catalyst to that. Because many companies come in and they take a look at, well, can you bring employees up to speed? Do you have a ready workforce of people who are associate degree, bachelor's degree, perhaps master's degree trained in specific areas? If they don't have that, they're not coming. And overall, they look at tax incentives, they look at quality of life issues. But higher education is one of that third leg of that three-legged stool. And I want to make sure that we're responsive, that we'll show them that we can turn on a dime, if we can meet their needs when we play a bigger partner in the community and grow in the fabric of this whole central Georgia region. As we grow, I think, in importance in that, the community recognizes that. People want to invest more in us. We can find people who want to partner when we need to build certain infrastructure, when we need to create centers of excellence I mentioned before. You'll find more and more people wanting to take a risk with us because they realize we're going to stand there, we're going to deliver. So that's the kind of things I mean. Culturally, I was very happy to find out that Macon really is a hotbed of music.
Right.
Has had a long history, and so I think we ought to take advantage of that. We ought to find ways. I was mentioning to the Vice President the other day, have we thought about like centers for popular music? There are many times an institution like ours can sort of be a repository for people from all around the region who want to sort of come to the institution. We have the Music Hall of Fame in Macon. That unfortunately is closing, but there are other ways of doing it other than museums. There are ways of actually having collections of people who are actually involved in the academic side of some of these pursuits. We need to be their first thought. I hope over time that people in Central Georgia, both for coming to school, but also doing pursuits such as economic analysis, and we have a wonderful center for economic analysis. As a matter of fact, on the 7th of September, I've been invited to go up to a Federal Reserve meeting in Atlanta with our two key leaders. That sort of opportunity to provide analysis for just-in-time kind of industry people in the community makes us a real player in the minds of the people of Central Georgia, and that we'll be there to provide data, we'll be there to provide information they need to make business decisions. So I think this institution is ready to just burst forth with all these sorts of things, and I want to help be a catalyst for that.
Okay. Also, this is a shameless shameless thing I'm going to plug in.
Okay.
Our library hours. Our institution is growing and growing, but our library hours stay the same. It opens at 8 o'clock and
Okay.
closes at, I think, 9 o'clock.
Okay.
But of course, it would be great if they opened until midnight at least.
Okay.
With
I wasn't
more
aware of
students
that. I mean,
coming.
I get to say I'm the new guy for at least 6
Right.
months, right? I can get a pass on those things. I was unaware of those things. Well, I want to chat with our folks in the divisions. All of it gets down to resources and making sure you have the staff to be able to keep it open, because you can't just open it. It has to be safe. It has to be a safe environment.
Right.
I think what I'd like to find out is survey the students, find out just how big an issue that is.
Right.
Are there other avenues or opportunities? Is it hard book resources or is it electronic resources? Are there other ways of doing it? Sometimes we get lockstep in thinking that it's got to simply be open the whole building. Well, maybe it's not the whole building that you need. Maybe it's a certain piece of it. So there's ways, I think, of looking at that.
Actually, I lived in the student housing, the new student housing
Mhm.
last year,
Mhm.
and the reason why I moved in was because we had. They said there were going to be a study area,
Mhm.
so a private area where students can just come and take out books and paper and just
In the
study
housing itself.
In the housing
Mhm.
itself. Well, there wasn't. So I went into the library and tried to look for that, and so then the library hours grew a problem for
Okay.
me as a student.
This is good for
and
me to
then
hear.
I started talking to other students and realized, hey, these people need library hours. They're a problem for them too. And so I came up with a thing we should do. It'd be nice if we had like a security guard right there at the library, and perhaps they could stay until 12 midnight,
Mhm.
and they would sign us in, use our student IDs, and we could,
Mhm.
they would monitor that. Just one security guard that be taken from the housing area, and they
Mhm.
can circle around to the library and
Right.
and see about that. That way, students can come in and just use the tables and
Sure.
chairs and just
And that could work.
study until midnight.
Let me turn the question to you.
Mhm.
Have you utilized any formal channels of student government association? Have you utilized? I think if that would come as really a strong supported position from, say, student government, that's something we would have to ask our staff to consider. If
I
they-
met with the dean of student affairs,
Mhm.
and they had a meeting with all the students
Mhm.
towards the end of last semester,
Okay.
and that's where I figured out that all of us were having the same issue.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's the only sort of channel I've used so
Okay.
far. But
I would encourage you to contact your student government association
Okay.
and ask them to put this forward as an official. I mean, now that you've asked me the question, I'm going to go back and ask it, because this is the first I'm hearing of it.
okay.
I'm very much into increasing what we do in residential life,
Mhm.
especially as now we're looking forward to building another set of brand new residence halls
Wow.
on the campus. And in fact, we go before the Board of Regents in September to seek approval on a $10 million
Where would
project.
the new set be located?
Well, we just received approval last week from the Board of Regents to build the new recreation center. You all know that the students had passed a referendum to institute a recreation and wellness fee. And a part of that fee will go to paying the bonds to construct a new rec facility. That will be literally across the lake on this side of the road, and creating a real residential living and life experience.
Okay.
But a piece of that is not just about recreation, it's also inside the housing facilities. We need to have a very robust and dynamic living and learning experience. I know from years of experience, and I went to college a few years ago, that you have to have things integrated into the resident's life. The study areas, areas for activities, all have to be a piece of it. We're going to make sure we incorporate that into the next design for sure.
Okay. Wow. Well, thank you. That was all of my questions.
You're quite welcome.
Did you have any at all?
Hey, my name is Caleb Clark. I'm the sports
Caleb.
editor for the Macon Statement. Just one of my quick questions was, I've heard a hearsay about varsity sports coming to Macon State. What is your opinion on that?
As we grow and evolve, and I mentioned a little bit earlier in the interview that I really see Macon State standing on the potential threshold of what it can be. And it's a wonderful institution, but I think it can be even more. I think intercollegiate athletics is a piece of that. And I've went on record early as saying that. But at the same time, I have to take a look at where's the funding going to come from, because we've been struggling in the state of Georgia for the last 3 or 4 years on budgets, and this year is not much better. We're trying to keep fees down. Some of those things, like the rec and wellness fee that are helping create that, we might have to, say, is that an institutional desire? If so, we have to come back to the students and say that it might mean more fees, or it might mean reallocation of resources. The difficulty is, especially in my job, is hearing many great ideas, and I want to do all of them. And then I go down to the checkbook and say, okay, which ones can I pay for? And if it's a decision between hiring more faculty to staff more classes, or it's a decision between renovating a facility because it needs, those are the wisdom of Solomon kind of judgments that ultimately end on my desk, and I wish I had the wisdom of Solomon sometimes. I don't. So I try to make the best decisions based upon the information that I have. I can tell you that I'm very much a supporter in seeing us grow. I know the club sports now are excellent, that things are happening there. I'd like to see us move into that over a period of time as we can afford to do so. I think it is the ultimate point at which we are going to get to. I have no doubt in my mind. How we get there is we have to sit there and take a real good financial look at can we afford to add those pieces. Because as we add anything in intercollegiate athletics, we have the Title IX issues. Where Title IX, we have the gender equity. We have to make sure that we're providing, both women's and men's sports of equal opportunity. So as we're committed to that, we know there's a price tag with each one of those. The question is, are we willing to pay it? And that might ultimately come back to a referendum. I really believe in letting students know what they're looking at. Same with faculty and staff. I'm very transparent. I'm not going to make a decision that's going to be draconian. You're going to find out later, well, gee, that's going to cost me $500. If that's not something that's a great interest and only 5% of the students take advantage of it, then maybe that's not the right decision for today. But we keep those conversations going and say, if this is something you want to go down the road, Ellen, here's the price tag either directly or indirectly. Sometimes there's not a direct cost, but there's an indirect cost because you do this can't get done. There's only one pie. And the question is, how do we slice it up? We can get more efficient at it. We might find areas that we're not efficient anymore, and maybe those areas need to go away. But those analyses have really yet to begin for me. And once again, I'm day 26 on the job. So I'm still figuring out, where the strengths and everything are. I'm very encouraged in the athletics, growing more programs. They're all, I think, out there on the horizon. I don't want to build up hopes too high, but I will tell you that I'm very positive towards it. And I've spoken to our recreational wellness director, and I think he understands that.
Well, hi, I'm Robert Reese, and as a student, first let me say thank you for taking this position and welcome to our college. We're excited to have you here.
Appreciate it.
My question for you is, there is a distinct lack of food opportunities for the students, whether they just be the day students or living on the housing. Are there any plans to bring in local food businesses?
I've actually heard discussions, and once again, I've just tacitly gotten involved in some of this early. Discussions about Subway coming and some other things coming. What we have to do, first of all, is make sure that more students take advantage of what we currently have, because as a business entity, we have to make sure that at least things we're providing are break even. Right. At the moment, they're not. And so we're subsidizing some of these things. And some people wouldn't maybe want to admit that, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be transparent. From a business standpoint, right now, we're subsidizing the cost. We have to make sure it's profitable. I'd like to see it reach out. You have a very good point. I think in some of the areas where students congregate, that area in the bottom of the Professional Sciences Center, and that's a pretty cool little area down there. And I'd like to see more opportunities. And we have a lot of conferences even that perhaps could help us. We have to figure out a way to be entrepreneurial, make it first class, and also make it self-sustaining. We need to look at our vendors to become partners, not just vendors. How do you help invest in what the growth will be so we can have, as we add a Subway or a Pizza Hut or whatever those things are, that it's going to be cost effective and work. Because bottom line, if it's a drain, I can't do athletics or I can't add more hours in the library. This is all part of that piece that'll keep you up real late at night worrying about how to make sure the budget works. But I'd love to see more diversity in what we're providing. In fact, when we're done this interview, I'm going to go to the cafeteria and have lunch because I'm going to try to reinvest in it. Okay.
To add on to his, my name's Lexi Meeks. I'm
Hi,
one of
Lexi.
the copy editors for Macon Statement. We need better hours at the cafeteria, especially for student housing. The cafeteria was closing at 4 o'clock during the summer, and even if it was open till 7, it'd be so much better for the students living over there, because I know I lived in the campus housing for a semester, and trying to get hold of food on campus was terrible.
Right.
We were having to drive all the way down to Presidential Crossing. So if we could just have slightly longer hours there, that'd be great.
And this is good for me to hear because I'm not hearing these conversations. Of course, since I've arrived, there haven't been that many students on campus, and I haven't had a forum. So this is great because I need to know these things. I love. If you went back to the institution I just came from, they'll tell you that I'm a huge student, advocate and a student supporter, and I go to many of the events. I actually showed up at one of the summer jams here. I think it surprised people that I walked in, but I want to know what's going on because you'll give me the unvarnished story. Here's what we're experiencing. what I think my role is to work with our staff and ask the question, why is it we aren't doing this? How come the library is not open these hours? You know, why don't we have better services? How come they're not open these times? And of course, I think I'm going to hear budgetary responses, okay? The question is, okay, then let's get creative. If it is simply a dollar-driven issue, is there areas we could cut back on certain things? It's going to be a trade-off. And I think what we need to do is provide that information to the students and say, here's the hard, cold realities. Here's what we're trying to do. And maybe we're simply not asking enough of our vendor partners. You know, and if they see this video, they're going to be worried. But I think what we need to do is let's understand that students have needs. And what are the needs? And we're going to try to meet as many of them as we can. I think you'll see it under my, I think you used the term regime, I'm going to avoid the term regime, under my administration, because that has a connotation, it's my German background. Yeah, it's not good for Germans and regime, it's not good. So I think the connotation is that we're going to try to look at things in a different light. I have the benefit of coming in with new eyes. I don't know what hasn't worked. And I quite frankly don't want to know what hasn't worked, because I'd rather say let's try it in a different way, because it's easy to simply stop something because you say, well, we've tried that before, that's not effective. Why wasn't it effective? Was the idea bad, or did students not know about it? I mean, let's say we open the hours tonight to 7 o'clock. Would you know it? How would you know it? How would we communicate that? Maybe we need to come to the student organizations and say, help us get that information out. What other ways aren't we doing it? Are we Facebooking it? Are we using Twitter? Are we using kind of social media to communicate these things? If we're not, why not? Some of those things are free. I mean, it's just a matter of doing it. So those are the questions I'd want to come back with. What you'll find if people come to me and say, well, I want you to fix this, I'll say, I'm not going to be the problem solver. I'm going to help you solve the problem. Now, I may ultimately be the one accountable for it, but I don't have all the answers. I mean, when I became president, my intelligence quotient didn't go up 25 points. I'm the same person I was, but I think I have a vast experience. I've been at 5 institutions, and I've had every job you can imagine pretty much in higher ed. So I think I bring a richness of that, and I have some ideas, but by no means am I the final arbiter of all great ideas. I don't possess them all. But I hope that some of my talents and background will help make people think in a different way. That's what I'm going to challenge my staff to do. Let's think in a different way. You know, you don't throw everything out, because, as I said before, this is not a broken institution.
Right.
Far from it. It's a great institution. That's why I left Naples, Florida, and came here. And a lot of people have asked me, why did you do that? Well, because I think the institution has a tremendous opportunity to really burst forth. Some of these things we have to be attentive to. I'm going to ask my staff to really focus more on this. It's not just lip service, I mean this, because I will hold them accountable for these things.
Is there something we can do as students? I have a lot of contact with a lot of the different sports organizations, and the two problems is, well, funding, and then there's participation, in which participation is increasing, I've noticed. Is there something we can do as students to help get the funding for things such as varsity sports, et cetera, et cetera?
That's a great idea. Honestly, I don't know the answer to that. I truly don't. This is not a real strong area of mine. I haven't had a great deal of experience. I've been at institutions we've had. In fact, the first institution I was at had 1A football. Hang on, don't quote me saying we're going to have 1A football. Although we did buy some great land over here that I could just see the stadium going up now. But, I mean, yes, I'm sure there are some ways. And I think we need to, I like your thinking, we need to think outside the box and think entrepreneurial. We need to look at partners, industrial partners perhaps, community, people who would want to see us do some things like this. At the moment, I don't know the answer. I think we need to have a real good focused discussion on this and bring in some outside people who give us some ideas. Let's look at best practices. I don't think we have to create everything brand new here. I believe in a very simple model called the CASE model. CASE, copy and steal everything. Okay? It's, figure out, other people have figured this out, obviously. Why can't we, learn from what they have done? So I would challenge you to, go out and help us find some of those best practices. Tell us what we don't know, because here's an area that I don't know a lot. So I would ask you to help us come with some ideas, and you'll find forums that I'm going to come and sit down with student groups. I'll sit down with in areas in our student life. Talk to me about what you'd like to see. I'd love to see, concerts and colloquium series and all kinds of activities. I want to see a real robust student life program here. And I see that is the area we have the most growth potential. Sports is a huge piece of it. I'm not a big sports fan per se, but I understand the importance of sports involved in the institution. But my sports activity limits to about NFL football on Sundays. I do kind of like that. But, I mean, I didn't mean to dodge any of your questions. I'm trying to give you my honest thinking about where we are, where I am, and people keep asking me, "What's your vision for Macon State?" I said, I think I have a vague vision, and that vision would be to realize our potential. What do I think our potential is? I think our potential is being a major player, a major university in the central Georgia region. I think you look back 5 years from now, we're going to look very different than we look today. I guarantee it. If we don't, I'll be gone because they will have fired me. But because I believe this institution is really ready to achieve its potential. And we just have to believe in ourselves and go take those steps to get there. I appreciate all of your questions. They were all good, and they're heartfelt. I know they are. They come from where you're having frustrations, where you're having, and that's normal. And it's healthy to have the discussion. You'll find me very approachable. And if my staff isn't, let me know.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
quite
you
welcome.
very much.
You're very
Appreciate it.
welcome. I enjoyed it.